Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Barry McAuley, for anyone that doesn't know me. I am Head of Digital Construction and Geospatial Surveying within TU Dublin. So within that remit, I look after all the digital construction programs, strategic direction, and so forth. And I'm here to talk about one of the projects that I have been involved with, which was an EU-funded bid that TU Dublin and 6 other consortium members won, which was ultimately to deliver a training platform that would help target a number of different upskilling issues across the EU. So on a very high level, the Arise was funded primarily to target a number of upskilling related issues in the area of digital construction and BIM. It was done through the EU Horizon Project 2020. In terms of what we actually did, just to give an idea of where this presentation is going, we created a mobile platform that created a competency-based framework that was linked to the training modules. This was underpinned through a gamification, and we looked at a blockchain technology to verify the actual training, and it was on a ready-to-go mobile platform. So it was quite a significant undertaking, and there was a lot of work done beforehand by the partners to establish the benchmark of what that actually looked like and what was required. So I suppose where it came around from was the Green Deal. And I think everyone in the room understands what the Green Deal is, but in summary, it emphasised the need for widespread upskilling and reskilling to achieve a climate neutral economy by 2050. And to do that, it's looking at upskilling people with sustainability and green skills. The EU Commission released a report saying that we are drastically shorten that skill set across 42 different professions. They include bricklayers, plasterers, civil engineers. On top of that, we have to upskill over 1 million additional professionals or new people coming into the industry in order to meet these climate neutral targets. So it's a big ask. They've released a number of different frameworks, including the Renewable Energy Directive and Energy Performance Directive, and this has helped establish a number of competencies. Just building on this again, the project that I was involved in was part of the EU Build Up Skills, which was launched in 2011. And the aim of this was to enhance upskilling for professionals in the construction and renovation sector. And it did this essentially by combining 7 different policies, namely energy efficiency, economic growth, circularity, education and digitalisation. In recognition that without skilled construction workers and professionals, the decarbonation of our building stock will not be achieved. The Arise project aimed to target this by implementing a unified method for recognising competencies in digital energy and energy construction skills across Europe. And that brings us to the actual project. So there was essentially 4 or 5 key things that we set out. The first was a harmonisation of activities in one EU-funded projects. So all the project partners that were part of this were all part of the initial funded projects where they created platforms, training material. So what we had out there, we had a lot of silo training material. So we brought us all together and we looked at what we had and we kind of reduced the repetition, and ultimately with the goal of kind of using these resources together as one. After this, we aim to kind of create a skill-based competency framework and associate these modules in order to enhance CPD, micro-learning, and each of the partners looked at bringing that CPD onto our own frameworks. The next stage was to create a mobile-friendly framework, and the final phase was to underpin that through a blockchain technology. So the first part, I'll highly go into, is our task-based qualification framework. Now, this was linked with other build-up skills projects, and essentially what we wanted to do here was create a task-based qualification framework that was focused on task and skill maturity. So on the BIM space, what we did essentially was we created subject areas, which was BIM basics, BIM application, which looked at modelling, coordination, management, BIM utilisation, which looked at planning, support, which is product data management, and BIM and energy. So take, for example, focusing on BIM utilisation. Within there, we would have had a number of learning outcomes. So 7 or 8 different learning outcomes. Within each one of those learning outcomes, we would have had about 6 or 7 key tasks that would contribute you achieving that learning outcome. Each one of those tasks were associated with a open badge or a kind of I suppose, a certification. And then that was linked back to a larger badge, a milestone badge that would represent the learning outcome. So ultimately what you were doing was you were building, getting your learning outcome, going to the next one. And this platform understood and knew this, and it meant that when you went to look at other skills, it would have linked learning outcomes, linked sub-learning outcomes, and would say, okay, you've got 2 or 3 done in that already, kick on. This is where the blockchain came out of it. So for anyone that doesn't know much about blockchain, and similar to myself, blockchain is a very complex technology. It's not a simple thing to integrate. We looked at different universities that were creating their own blockchain, and the IT and tech and hardware behind it is quite significant. It's not a simple thing to underpin. So with that, we decided to move away from that into something called open badges as part of the open badge factory. Open badges, they can travel, they remember the educational pathway. So what you could essentially do is create a badge for one of the sub-learning outcomes, link it back to a milestone badge, and then when you finish this qualification, you will be issued then with a micro badge or milestone badge, which would then be recognised as your output. So the idea was then that you have this, that's how we underpinned the educational pathway. It was quite innovative, and we used a thing called Open Badges 3.0, and it was linked to the modular e-learning material on the platform. And once again, if you want to look at Open Badge Factory, that's where it all comes from. We also incorporate gamification. So we want to make it fun as education. I like to think is, but obviously I'm coloured in that regard. So what we did with every badge, we would have linked it to a certain amount of points, and we would have had a leaderboard. So the more you did, the more you climbed the leaderboard, and the more kind of, I suppose, get up and go you had to kind of try and beat your competitor. So it was kind of just, an additional thing, and we had a leaderboard up there for everyone to see. So this brings us to the pilots. The pilots were quite intense. We put them across 6 or 7 different jurisdictions, from Macedonia to Portugal to Belgium to the north to the south of Ireland. I know Denmark as well. So we had a lot of different partners that we rolled this across with different workshops, different promotional events, so forth, so etc. And the idea essentially was to validate and enhance the matrix of competencies, make sure the qualification decided to meet the market demands and industry needs were right. And once again, they were aimed at all stakeholders. They weren't just aimed at your top end. They were aimed at people all the way down to bricklayers, to plasterers, all the way up to even the client. So we were trying to kind of get a real kind of capture the market. And we also aimed to use surveys to kind of collect data. If you look at the platform here, this is what the platform looked like. Each one of these had a training plan, which was your learning outcome. You went in that, you see just sub-learning outcomes. And each one of these had details and videos and materials and surveys and quizzes and everything to try and kind of keep you involved. And the second objective was to build capacity. So essentially, these were the results. A total of 1,939 individuals were upskilled, which our target was 1,000. 3,361 registered users on the platform, with 2,813 enrolled in various micro-modules. Of those, 2,395 complete the training, with 3,500 badges issued and 350 milestone badges issued. The pilot accumulated several deliverables, including validation of the competency matrix, the learning outcomes, and the training models. So what do we learn out of this, and what were the key takeaways? Well, what we're seeing and what was the success of the platform is that it allowed professionals to engage in bite-sized learning that fits into their busy schedules. It was a progressive shift in how competencies are recognised and validated through our open badge system. And it allowed a cross-border recognition of qualifications through the platform. And obviously that was within the jurisdictions that worked. And finally, it also enabled professionals are more likely to be sought off by employers, we believe, seeking individuals who possess the latest skills in BIM and energy. So you have this in your CV, the micro badge, the kind of where you're able to kind of go and demonstrate quite quickly to an employer. And further than that, installed energy efficiency practices within the construction industry. And we worked out at 4.5 gigawatts per year in primary energy saving and 2.25 gigawatts a year in renewable energy generation. And we figured that out by doing case studies and obviously then mapping the influence each one of our trainees were having on that particular project. So then we were able to multiply that number by the amount of people that came through the training. So thank you very much. And yeah, I hope it was quite clear.